Okay, I got a little headcanon, but you guys are gonna have to hear me out on this one. I think that realistically, Spider-Man probably has a vlog channel on YouTube. And I genuinely think he's probably like the most subscribed person on YouTube, pulling in like 14 million each video. But here's the problem. He can't make money off of it. Because in order to make money off of YouTube, you got to put in like your credit card, your real name, and all that shit. And obviously, it would probably be real easy for somebody who's like smart in computers to figure out who Spider-Man is. So like he's probably like the biggest YouTuber on the planet, getting invited to do all these things. Obviously, he's turning it down because he's Spider-Man, responsibility, all that bullshit. And everybody probably think that Spider-Man's just rich motherfucker. He's coming home to this beat up ass apartment, got 14 million on YouTube, but nothing to show for it. But nah, genuinely try to tell me you wouldn't watch 30 minutes, whether it's fucking POV, him holding the camera, but just 30 minutes of him swinging around New York. That's literally, bro, that's amazing. One thing that's always bothered me about the Sony Disney deal that lets Marvel use Spider-Man is the fact that Sony will be like, yo, you can use Spider-Man 4 times in 4 different places. So that means if Marvel's going to use Spider-Man, that means they're probably going to save him for big deals or big crossover events. So that means we're only really going to see Spider-Man interact with other people in the universe, either in his own movies to where they're coming over to his shit, or he's going to be in an Avengers movie. But my problem is, Spider-Man crosses over with people a lot. Like, realistically, you're trying to tell me Daredevil's about to get this first season and Spider-Man's not going to show up in it once. We're not going to see no webs. We're not going to see nothing. I don't think that's how that should work. And Spider-Man is pretty important to the Fantastic Four. Let's say you want to do that in the MCU. You can only have them interact so many times to drive home that point that he's important to them. But you only got 4 tries with it, so you better make it work. Just let the MCU use Spider-Man whenever they want. You will make so much more money, Sony. One thing that no one can take away from Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is the way that he's able to act with his body language. Whatever emotion that you need to feel from Spider-Man, he's about to do it without showing his face. To the point of where, if he had the option of using the lenses that can move, I think he would be better off without it. I don't care what nobody says. These are 2 hills that I'm willing to die on. Andrew Garfield wasn't a bad Spider-Man, and 2, he just had a bad movie. A singular bad movie. The first one is not bad. This is by far one of the ugliest Spider-Man suits of all time. It's a shame that I hate this suit too, because this is the one Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movie I will fucking die behind. Then we take it to TASM 2 and then it flips. I love the suit, but I absolutely despise the movie. That's just not good. And speaking of not good, this suit. It's ugly as fuck. This shit's not good. I see what they was going for with the yellow lenses. I've seen people have yellow lenses on Spider-Man designs before and it worked. It don't work here. Why is this suit so over-designed? Look at Spider-Man's original design. Why is there so much shit going on here compared to that? Who designed this shit? Were you on cocaine, meth, weed? You were on some kind of drug when you designed this shit. And whoever let it slide, they was on some crazier shit. If you just get rid of those black lines on the blue and just leave it plain, just leave it a negative space, I promise you it doesn't look nearly as bad. Since the Penguin happened and people have been exposed to Renzi Feliz, the actor who plays Vic, and especially since he's talked about Miles Morales, people have been saying that he should just flat out play Miles Morales in live action. And no hate to him at all, but when y'all see him, do you really see Miles Morales here? Or are you just saying he should play him out of convenience because you know this actor now? Because me personally, when I look at him, he don't really fit the vibe of a Miles Morales. And the second thing, just to be a little blunt here, he not dark enough, bro. And really, this is my main complaint when it comes to Miles Morales fan castings. People learn a new black person that's an actor, and they're like, ooh, Miles Morales. This nigga ain't no goddamn Miles Morales. What are you talking about? The writers for Spider-Man comics are funny as fuck, because who thought to make Gwen Stacy cheat on Peter with, get this, Norman Osborn, not Harry? She then gets pregnant. The twins grow up fast because of the Green Goblin serum, and it makes them age fast, apparently. I don't know. And then they get convinced to hate Peter because apparently to them he was the one that killed Gwen, and he's actually their father. And yeah, that got retconned to them just being programmed AI, but my point is, shit like this should not need to be retconned, because what if, and hear me out on this, what if they thought about just not writing this shit in the first place? Yeah, also, before it got retconned,
In the story, in canon, Mary Jane, Peter's current wife, knew that his ex cheated on him with his best friend's dad and just kept it to herself because it would ruin the memory of Gwen Stacy. It's like, for whatever reason, Marvel just has a hate boner for the character that makes them the most money.
You guys remember Batman Beyond and Spider-Man Unlimited? Why don't we get more cartoons like that? The whole thing would be, instead of basing certain stories or certain portions of an episode off of a comic book story, an entirely new premise for the comic book character in general, whether that be Batman or Spider-Man. Also, just remember, Superman also, because there's this show too, really end up being some of the best comic book cartoons because really, there's no limits on what they can do. You could basically do whatever you wanted. Okay, almost anything you want to do because Marvel and DC still have the say-so on it because it's their property. If this character's not acting right or you didn't get the characterization right, well, it's a different universe. We're trying something different. They're not supposed to act like that in the first place. Thus leading to some of the best iterations of characters. Because had they have not had this freedom, we probably would have never seen something like that. Like, yeah, taking from the comics for inspiration or just taking the story word for word is cool, but also letting people get creative with these characters is cool too. Like that Iron Man show that used to air on Nickelodeon, where instead of him being a grown man, he was a teenage superhero similar to Spider-Man. And to answer my own question from the beginning of the video, why don't we get more shows like this? Is because for the most part, the heroes that got shows like this that's not really like comic book stories and it's just their own thing, already had like 15 different cartoon shows to begin with. So at this point, they're kind of just forced to try something new. There are obviously exceptions, like I said, Superman. Superman's only really had one-ish, two-ish shows, but it's Superman. He's iconic. Everybody knows Superman's story. And the other characters, they don't even have the luxury to try this because they simply just never had a show to begin with. So imagine telling comic book fans, hey, we're going to do a show of this character, but it's not going to be from the comics. It's going to be something completely new. And that's not like it's the end of the world, but it's like, can we see the actual character first before we start getting like wacky and crazy? The point of this video is, I don't know, try shit. If you like this video, subscribe and follow me, and have yourselves a damn good one. It's not necessarily a negative, but I do find it interesting that PlayStation Spidey is 8 years in and has only just run into Venom and hasn't even touched Green Goblin yet. And this isn't to knock any of his villains, like he's been fighting scrubs this whole entire time. We all saw what the Sinister Six did to him. Actually, we was playing the game. We all saw what the Sinister Six did to us. Left us floating on a trash can in a lake. But I just find it interesting. His two main villains, he's never run into 8 years deep. I think almost every Spider-Man that we've seen throughout every single adaptation, before even like 4 years in, has run into one of the two. And once again, this isn't a bad thing. It's just interesting to think about. To put this into perspective, Tom Holland being 4 years into being Spider-Man, whether they're from his universe or not, has ran into almost every single villain Spider-Man has. I think currently in the MCU, he's going into year 5 or 6. My math might be a year off or so. So year 6, he's about to run into Venom. We already know Tobey ran into both. His first villain was Green Goblin. I think Andrew had been Spider-Man for about 3 years, ran into Green Goblin, and he killed his bitch. It's just normally, we would have just seen them run into them by now. But what I do think is cool is we're getting a completely different spin on this. A completely experienced Spider-Man versus Venom. And eventually when the time comes, Green Goblin, because that shit's very much on the way if you've seen what they were doing in Spider-Man PS4. And you know what? Maybe it's for the best. Let some new characters get some shine in Spider-Man villains. We all think of Venom and Green Goblin. All I'm saying is, though, eventually it is gonna have to happen. People trashed this suit when it first came out, and shit, I think I was one of them. But now, I go as far to say that this is one of my favorite Spider-Man suits of all time. When I first saw it, it was a leak. And if you remember the Spider-Man No Way Home era, any news that we got about that movie was a leak. And I vividly remember there being a silver version of it, and I was like, this looks like shit. Then I saw the gold version, I was like, this looks better, but it still doesn't look great. And if you looked at the crowd, most people were complaining about it looking too techy. Me, I could give a fuck about that. I just thought it didn't look good. And this just goes to show how important a good story is for a movie, because when I watched the movie and I got to the point of where he got that shit on his suit, I was completely fine with it, and I actually thought it looked good. Doc Ock snatched the nanotech off of Spider-Man, took it on his shit, then when they got cool, he gave it back to him and was like, yeah, I fuck with you, nigga. And from that moment on, I was sold on it. And another reason they sold it for me so well, despite what people might show you, 1 second frames of bad CGI, the CGI for Spider-Man No Way Home is actually pretty damn good. Like, it's a good looking movie. And whenever you saw that suit, it looked damn good. Like, sure, the only reason that they did that is because Marvel is greedy and they want toy money. But honestly, I think it just fits in the story. Like, yeah, Tom's Spider-Man is very tech-based. In my opinion, it helps shows the difference between all the Spider-Mans. I like it. And if you don't like it, fuck you then, I guess. I don't know. Superhero secret identities usually aren't that good. Peter Parker. He takes pictures of Spider-Man so he couldn't possibly be Spider-Man. He also says that he's friends with Spider-Man. This all goes up in smoke and flames if somebody just simply questions, how the fuck are you getting some of these pictures? Even as a friend telling somebody to pose for a picture, you're not getting that. But you know what? I'll let it slide. Batman. His whole thing is Bruce Wayne and Batman act so different from each other, it couldn't possibly be him. All it takes is for somebody to notice that Batman and Bruce Wayne have a similar jaw right here, and they kind of sound the same, and you're going to start piecing it together. Because how does this guy have a bat plane, Batmobile, Bat Cave, and he's not rich? It's Bruce Wayne. And then the most egregious of them all, Superman. The nigga just has glasses. But what I will say is, sometimes they end up doing Superman's secret identity pretty well. It's the Batman thing all over again. Clark Kent and Superman act pretty damn different, but also they'll sometimes have them slouch over. The glasses do help, because let's not lie, somebody takes off the glasses, they do be looking different sometimes. But the most important thing is, you just wouldn't expect to see a superhero working at a newspaper place. And that affects all the secret identities because you just don't expect to see him, so 9 times out of 10, you're probably not even going to notice the similarities. Yep, I stole that shit from Invincible. And I almost forgot, Iron Man. That nigga didn't even try. He gave up at the beginning. Peter Parker, I'm not going to say that he's better than me. Peter Parker is a cuck. Because me personally, Paul comes through, takes my bitch, and she says that she's not leaving him. I'm going to fucking kill Paul. We're going to bash his fucking skull in. Let me break this down so it makes more sense. MJ gets stranded in a different dimension while Peter gets out because the world would end or some shit if Peter stayed there. She's in there with Paul. It's a month in Peter's time of his life just struggling to get back to MJ. He finally does it. He gets back to MJ. MJ has kids with Paul because it's been 4 years since Peter was back her time. So she was like, no, well, he's not coming back. I'm just gonna fuck this nigga. MJ, all the shit that you and him been through, you really thought he wasn't coming back. If I'm Peter, the second I see Paul, I'm bashing that nigga's skull in. She over here saying, Peter, I'm not leaving him. That's fine, MJ. I'm bashing his skull in. I would be a villain. Spider-Man is a villain because of you. You know, I'm really starting to think that somebody at Marvel Editorial has a cuck fetish because this is getting absurd now. I mean, it already was, but this is just a whole new level. We finally got the backstory as to why, when, and how Mary Jane has these random ass kids now. She got trapped in a different dimension. Peter got kicked out of that said dimension. And he did not waste time trying to get her back. In order to get back to that dimension, he had to steal from the Fantastic Four, his friends. They caught him, so he had to fight the Fantastic Four to get away from them. Then he had to fight Captain America. He had to do so much shit to get back to MJ, but it's fine. It's worth it. That's the woman that he loves. He finally gets back to her. This goal that he's been working towards to get to so hard. She cheated on him, had 2 kids with a random nigga. Because time works differently there, and he'd been gone a long time. I'm telling you right now, somebody at Marvel is a cuck. Only they would like this. Peter Parker is a better man than me because every time some shit pops off around him, it's an easy fix. All right, let me go run over here, changing to Spider-Man. But not everybody knows that he's Spider-Man, so all of his friends must think that he's just a bitch. If a supervillain pops up, they're like, how the fuck is Peter already gone? So the common consensus in his friend group is that he's a bitch. The whole time, the only reason they're alive is because Spider-Man is saving them. That secret identity would be gone out the window so fast. I would just have to say fuck it and tell him I'm Spider-Man. Cause you not about to just call me a bitch every time something happens. The whole thing with Miles Morales not being Spider-Man to certain people has always been just stupid to me. Because what the fuck do you mean he's not Spider-Man? I've yet to see somebody give a valid reason as to how Miles Morales is not Spider-Man. He has spider powers, he has a spider suit, he's Spider-Man. They always say something stupid like, why is there two Spider-Mans? Why can't he just call himself something stupid? Because he's Spider-Man. Let's say your name is fucking Veronica. Your whole life, you run into another Veronica. You're gonna have to call yourself something different because there's another one? No, nigga. People always act like it's such a big deal anyways. But if you go to The Amazing Spider-Man 2, that's already a theory that they're thinking of. There's multiple Spider-Men. So now that it's been confirmed, it really shouldn't be a big deal at all. And I don't see anybody bitch and moan about this with the Flash. And that's a character where you could actually have some problems with it. Peter and Miles' suits look so different. Look at the Flash, Barry and Wally, the only way you can tell a difference is the eyes. Miles is Spider-Man. The only time that Miles has ever really been called Kid Arachnid is in this shitty ass Ultimate Spider-Man show and a literal show for babies. In this one, he's still Spider-Man, but they used the shitty ass logic that I was talking about. There's two Spider-Mans, won't that get a little confusing? So, yeah, I would say it's outdated. He doesn't really use the name outside of two places. Imagine being a criminal and getting webbed up to a building by Spider-Man for hours. Well, you know, it could be worse. Shut the fuck up. I'm just saying we could have ran into like the Hulk or something. This could be way worse. Yeah, and it could be way better if you didn't tweet at Spider-Man, hey, bet you won't come stop us. Hashtag Spider-Man's a bitch. I didn't think he'd see it. I fucking hate you. Hey man, look at the positives. At least the view's nice up here, you know? You know, now that you mention it, it is pretty up here. It's a nice city we live in. Yeah, it just makes me think like, wow, why are we trying to pollute this nice city that we live in already? Enough shit already goes on, you know? And this shit is like really high. I don't really want to do this again. Yeah, man, this might be the last time. I don't think I want to do this anymore. Oh. That's why he does it. The saddest thing about this scene is I know this hug meant a lot to Peter, and seeing Peter back meant a lot to Tony. The only reason that other half is back is because of Peter, and now nobody knows he exists. No one knows that this happened. This shit is only in his memory, and he's got to hold on to moments like this close to his heart, because if he forgets them, they're literally gone forever. He can't just be like, hey bro, you remember that time? No, I don't, Peter. He can't go look at pictures to remember. Everybody was making memes about it, but we saw how it was with the extended release of No Way Home. His face just doesn't get shown. So he can't go look at pictures, nothing. It has to be in here or it's gone. If he wants to see a picture with him and Tony, can't do it. If he wants to see a picture of him and Aunt May, can't do it. He just got to rock out with his memory. Peter, you have to tell me the truth right now or I'm done. You'll never see me again. I'm not gonna lie to you, MJ. I'm gonna lie to you. Of course I'm not Spider-Man. Look at me, I'm Peter Parker. I'm a little nerd. How can I be Spider-Man? Not gonna lie, I'm so glad almost everything outside of comic Spider-Man is decent to great. Because good lord, if they weren't, this character would genuinely be doomed. It's genuinely impressive. A talent, actually, how you can continuously make worse and worse decisions and stories when the last one is always, it can't get worse than this. But somehow, it always does. They can give Mary Jane superpowers to protect them lame-ass kids, but God forbid I want Peter and her to stay together longer than a year in comics. Dear God, across the Spider-Verse, save me. I know a lot of people talk about shit being in the Internet Hall of Fame, but this tweet right here, this really needs to be in it. Because if you read this tweet, he really thought he was cooking, bro. Make a Logan-style Spider-Man movie with Maguire. Don't tie it into any cinematic universe whatsoever. Just do a rough, beautiful, emotional tale about an older Spidey. Have Sam Raimi direct, give him full control, watch the box office explode. That nigga thought he cooked up a 5-star meal, sauteed, fucking, what's another way of cooking? Grilled, stir-fried. He thought he was chefing. He thought he was cooking. And this isn't even me saying the idea is bad. It's not a bad idea, but it's just like, I could have thought of this. It's not no crazy idea. Anybody can do this. Why did y'all let him cook? Okay, so like a week or two ago, I watched Spider-Man No Way Home again. And oh my God, I cannot stop thinking about that movie. It's so good. The story of Tom Spider-Man not wanting to help these villains, especially after Green Goblin killed Spider-Man, but the other two teaching him that that's what he does because he's Spider-Man. And then the slow build story of Tom Spider-Man finally becoming that independent Spider-Man that we all think of when we think of Spider-Man. Then the CGI, nobody talks about this because they always want to talk about the negative, but the negatives are only 2 seconds long, and if you really look at this fucking film, it's beautiful. This scene that's been above my head this whole time, beautiful. Top 5 in MCU. The one where he fights Doctor Strange. Oh my God, magnificent. And don't even get me started on the scene where the villains are about to come through. This shit is amazing. And the most important thing about this movie for last, Tom Holland. What an amazing actor. Just proves that he's Spider-Man throughout this whole damn film, and my favorite by far. When MCU Peter eventually meets Reed Richards, I pray to God they don't do the older father figure mentor thing. We had a whole arc about it. Let's move on to something different. I want them to view each other as friends and equals because that's what they should be. And, you know, obviously extend that connection down to the rest of the Fantastic Four and make them best friends with the Human Torch. Boom. That's all you gotta do, Marvel. It's not hard. Nah, I'm not rocking with this. I've seen nothing but praise for it on here, but this is weird to me, dude. The sneakers, the jacket around the waist, the sleeveless hoodie, the tattoos, the graffiti on the hammer. It just seems like, hey, what do black people like? Let's give it a Miles. I don't know, man. This shit is corny. This is the person who wrote it, by the way. He saw that Miles was Thor, which makes Thor black, so Asgard is now in the ghetto. Am I the only one who finds this weird? Is this not corny to you? The crazy thing is, I made this video like an hour ago and I deleted it out of my drafts because I was like, I saw people talking about it and they were fine with it, I guess. And I was like, I must be tripping. No, this is weird.
Okay, keep it real. What's a cartoon series that never should have got canceled?
Spectacular Spider-Man and Teen Titans, and both of them have something in common. They both got replaced by versions of characters that can't hold a candle to what we had before. Alright, so you got Team Black versus Team Red, and this is actually a really good matchup because I can't say for certain who would win. For the sake of argument, let's just say that the matchups are going to be even. So first we're going to have Spider-Man versus Black Panther. And to be honest with you, I couldn't really tell you who wins this. It just depends on who's having a good day or not. And then now we move on to Daredevil versus Batman. It's going to be real close, but I think with Batman's gadgets that he'll beat Daredevil. Now we move on to Blade versus Deadpool. And I'll be completely honest with you, I don't know shit about these niggas. I guess Deadpool because he can regenerate, but I don't know. Blade can have some fucking anti-healing factor Blade tucked up in his Duffy. I don't know. So overall, I say Team Red wins, but I'm fucking biased to Spider-Man, so who knows.